Here is my antenna tuner built into a 5¼ inches high standard rack-mounted panel by 17 inches by 13. I'm using two vacuum variable capacitors and a big coil in a T configuration. So the capacitors, one is towards the radio, one towards the antenna, and in the middle the coil goes to ground. I will explain all these buttons and switches in the front. This is an on-off switch because I have a power supply in there. I think that power supply is going to come out because I can use the power from my 13.8 volt power supply. Before regulation it's 27 volts, and I can use that voltage to select my antennas. If you have seen my video on my antenna switch, that's an 11 position antenna switch. The selection is being done from here. So I select the antenna that I want to run, and then I send power for a couple seconds, and my antenna selection has been done, and I release it, and there is no power going up on the tower or wherever the switch is mounted. This lever switch here, when I was building this, I had an idea of making the rotary inductor motorized, and I do have a nice, powerful, small precision motor. I might someday do it. So that's what this is for. The switches, this switch here is for the input. Select radios 1 through 4. I have the connectors, I have the switch. Why not put them in? Because in case you want to test the radio, so why disrupt everything? You reach in the back, or you might even have a piece of coax already hooked up, hanging in there, in case you want to use it. And that's why I put 4 connectors for 4 radios. Most of the time I have 2 radios, but not 4. So that's what this switch is. This switch here selects what the antenna tuner does. And what it does is this. Position number 1, power comes in, power goes out through the switch, but not through the tuner. The tuner is disconnected exactly like an amplifier is disconnected with 2 relays. Nothing is hooked up. And that's what this is. First position, power comes in, power goes out. Second position, power comes in, power goes out through the tuner. And the tuner now has been hooked up to, the signal is hooked up to the tuner the same way your power amplifier with 2 relays. The third position is the 4 to 1. You can see the balun back there. And the last position is a dummy load. So you can throw your power into your dummy load if you have one, and check your power. Now, as I said, I have 2 capacitors, one closer to the radio and one closer to the antenna. So my ergonomics theory is that the radio is down, the antenna is up. Therefore, the bottom capacitor is the one closer to the radio, and the top is the one closer to the antenna. I don't know if any engineer would I'm not an engineer, by the way. I don't know if any engineer would say, well, that has nothing to do with it. But for me, it does. and that's the way I design things. The rotary inductor, this is a big baby. It's a real big. And it moves real soft and nice with a lot of gears. And that's the front panel. Let's see what the rear panel is all about. Here's the rear panel. And yeah, you see my wobbly table? Yeah, I didn't have anything else right now. If I did it in the kitchen, that's too far. Now, the theory is that you measure twice and you cut once. Sometimes I do that, but not in this case. I thought I was going to put my 4-to-1 insulators here, but then I discovered that there's not enough room right here. The coil is too close, and I had to move them over here. And since I move them over here, why not use bigger insulators? So that's what I'm using here, big insulators. A grounding post, and the connectors. Connectors, this goes to the antenna, and this goes to the dummy load. And down here is radio number 1, radio number 2, radio number 3, and radio number 4. The socket that goes to my antenna tuner. You saw how I do the selection in the front, and this baby is hooked up to the line that goes to the antenna switch, and from here I control my antennas. And this is the rear panel, which I thought back then that, oh yes, I'm going to have a second antenna switch. For some reason I thought I was going to have a second antenna switch, and I put a second socket, but it didn't work out. All right, now that, let's see what is inside this thing. All right. Here we go. Starting from the left again, the socket for my antenna selection, the power supply, I don't think I'm going to use it, and all those switches down at the bottom. Antenna selection, antenna switch activation, and the lever switch for my motorized rotary coil inductor. These are the switches. This is the switch that selects the radios 1 to 4. It's way down the bottom. And this is the same type of switch. 2 wafers in order to make that switching that is exactly like your linear amplifier. And these are the vacuum variable capacitors. And the 4-to-1 balun. All the wires are Teflon. I happen to have quite a bit of pieces actually, but you know, some of them are up to 10-12 feet. And this is kind of interesting. I think this is Milan turn stoppers, I think they call them. I'm pretty sure Milan made them, and I have only seen them on Collins equipment, nothing else. What it is, it's a washer with a tab, and the tab is bent. So the first tab goes and sticks up against something, and it stops right there. The second tab comes around and stops on the first tab, and so on. So this way you can make it so you can turn 6 times or 10 times or whatever times you like to turn to make your selection, so you don't go over. And in this case, if I went over, something will disengage in the vacuum variables, and I will be in trouble. So that's what I'm using here, right here, to have a stop for my turning. The turns counters, it's very difficult to find turns counters anymore, but I had counters, but not turns counter with a shaft and a mounting. So I had to make my own. I had a bunch of right angle gear, and I hooked them up somehow, and I managed to come up with what I wanted to have. This is completely RF tight. The RF is in this compartment, and DC and other wires are on this side, so this way I don't get RF into my wires and have a problem. So this is the antenna tuner that I was talking about, and my next project is going to be the power supply, and finally the RF amplifier, which is not going to be easy because the amplifier is a big project, and I have the power supply is maybe 150 pounds, so I have to drag it out and put it on something in order to take a video. The amplifier is this baby right here. That's the RF deck. And this is the way my radio station was a few years ago. This was an antenna tuner that I sold to somebody. And my ICOM radios, I still have them all. Can't do without them. So that is going to be the last project. So guys, thanks for watching. Hey, if you have an idea, please spend a minute and write up something. Whether it's bad or good, I'll take it. I like ideas. Thanks.